And I think it's a good opportunity to segue into our next episode.
Yeah.
But before that, I have a YouTube retention play here. I'd like to mention that if you're watching on YouTube, behind me, you'll notice that there is a picture frame that has slowly been falling off the wall and is yet to fall off. But we've made it through the entire episode. If you'd like to rewind and watch that thing slowly fall off the wall, please do so.
We are kind of live now. This is what I always wanted to say. We are live.
And we're officially live.
We are officially live, exactly. I mean, this is just an experiment. Right. Back again, Tyler. Welcome.
Get it again.
Yeah,
Welcome.
Thank you. It's an episode I'm looking forward to be honest, because we are going to, it's good to hear, we are going to do a live brainstorm of a design/business problem. See if we can figure it out together. So that's something else compared to our regular episodes, and just to see if this is something. And I might just hand it over to you right away. Like, what's that problem you have in mind?
Okay, so I want to keep it quite high level, and I would love us to kind of let our minds go and kind of collaborate and come up with a solution at the end. So let's start with a very generic problem. From the business perspective, eager to, like any company does, increase revenue, whether it's ARR or MRR. An analyst has identified that they have one catalyst might be that they have a low adoption problem. So they are launching features, but a small, minute percentage of their user base or new users are actually purchasing or getting upsold those features. How might we solve this problem?
Okay. Well, I like that you start with business challenge in mind. Yeah, can you tell me a little bit more, because I have questions right away. So, are you talking about current users that are already on a subscription plan, for example, or new ones, or?
Yes, let's make this. I want to go away from B2B, make this a B2C environment, regardless of the industry. And so it's new users signing up. They have the base package, and then there's tiers, obviously. And then there are current users that there are new features that are being launched, but they're only available in the higher tiers.
Right. So let's say I am on tier A, like the basic one. And you guys worked on a new feature that's only available at tier B and up. And you notice that not enough people are going from A to B, even though you feel like there's more value now because we have this shiny new feature in tier B and up. Right.
And then I think the assumption that I want us to think about is that, yes, the features that are on the different tiers were designed for this example perfectly. So they solve the user's problem, and there wouldn't be buyer's regret for purchasing the upgrade in this magical perfect world.
If only. So that means that the upgrade is quite obvious. Like, why not upgrade? It's going to solve your problem. We know that in this magical example. First thing I would always think about is, are they aware of this new feature?
It seems no. It seems like there has been a poor job at building awareness.
Right. Because you have some of the, let's say, the more obvious channels that way is, announcing new features, or even building in public, like, hey, this is coming up, we're working on it. Leave your feedback in comments or reply to our email. So we have social media channels, a newsletter for subscribers, basically. Are they in place, do you think?
Let's say they are doing the bare minimum. They're posting general, like, brand awareness campaigns. So this is what we do, etc. Oh, we may have launched a thing. Go to our website. There's a new landing page that exists. So what they're currently doing is, if they launch a feature, maybe they'll update the website with a page or an addition to a page.
Yeah. Because maybe good for a little bit of context is that we are keeping it very neutral here, This is a scenario, but it is based on something like a pattern you've noticed in jobs and previous jobs and projects, right?
Yeah, I think there's a specific gap in, I think what the industry does very well is we have very clear science behind how we should discover and build features. There may be a gap in connecting those features to users.
Right. Okay. Now, if someone would come to me with this problem, so let's say a software as a service startup or anything, I would always start with a conversation like this, lots of questions back and forth just to understand the playing field. Then I would take a step back, have a more of a review, sign up as a user, see everything I run into, and then most things I noticed are based on design experience. And usually the conclusion is that if you look at, for example, 10 ways to make people upgrade to a higher plan, to upsell something, some of those 10 obvious choices are well put together. Let's say they are green labeled, then you have yellow labeled, they kind of do newsletters, they kind of use social media, but not really. And then red labeled, it means there's just no newsletter, for example. That's where I would start. They are the usual suspects, the newsletter and the change logs and patch notes and having a roadmap on the website, talking to users, that kind of stuff. Even showing something new, perhaps behind the paywall inside of the product. Hey, this is new, confetti, fireworks, click here to upgrade. I'm not sure for this example how to check what they all have, but that's something I would go for. Check if the obvious options are there, yes or no.
Okay. And when you're kind of looking at, how would you then approach it? Would it be an iterative approach? Would you lay out a plan, here's what we'll start with, and then we go on? Or would you roll out the dream scenario? If we had all the budget in the world, we'd do all of this.
Well, if only I had all the budget in the world.
Yeah.
Realistically speaking, I would score the things, red, yellow, green, or 1 to 5. It doesn't really matter that much. Well, let's stay with green, yellow, and red. Like I mentioned before. If I, and this is because I played Mario Kart on recently, I would first try and take out all the red labels. See if I can get anything to yellow and up, as a starting point. Because that's usually easier than getting something from yellow to green. But also, with the company coming to you or myself with this problem, that means there's a level of awareness of, hey, we're not doing as well as we should or could. Or in a bad scenario, there's only this gut feeling, I wish I had more company. I wish I had more money as a company, so assuming that they have some sort of data in place, you can just say well, okay, we have this new feature, 2% of users upgrade. We're not happy because our goal as a company is 5%. If you combine that with, well, let's try and get this red label and this red label to yellow, see if we can make that happen. Wait for 30 days or 60 days. And maybe that 2% conversion rate is now 2.5%. Well, that means that we have a measurable return on investment, as what you often talk about. So that's what I would do. Combine the existing data where that feeling is based on with a scorecard for current features, improve the easy ones, and then wait and see and adjust.
Okay. And then I'm curious, are there typical like playbooks for some of these upgrades? When you're looking at, let's take are there different levers that you potentially can pull when something's marked red, for example?
Well, I think maybe it would help if we pick one of the more obvious choices as an example and assume that it's red labeled. For example, I think if you only send out new feature updates as part of a newsletter to your users, I think that's not enough. I think you should keep the relationship warmer than just, hey, we have something new, pay up.
Exactly.
For one of my favorite projects / clients, I'm responsible not only for email sequence design, in the literal visual design sense, the header and the footer and styling, but also handling the responses to the emails, setting up the automations. So we're really close to the fire there. For example, we also send out like, hey, you've been subscribed for 2 months email, with the idea being like, hey, okay, we're doing something well because you're still with us. Please tell us, what that is. And while we're still talking, is there something you feel like that's missing? Something we can do to make it even better? Because I would love to send out this email again to you in 10 months when you've been with us for 12 months. It's really about that relationship building. And then I like the automated email obviously is automated, but when they reply to me, I reply back personally, handwritten. Like it's very 2022, this, like there's no AI there, but it's really about building a connection. And then I think it's way easier to say like, hey, by the way, we spoke last month and we have this new feature and I think it's going to be great for you because you mentioned such and such and such earlier. So really long rant from my side, but that's what I mean. Like if you only send out like, hey, we have this new shiny feature, like that feels very salesy. But if you send out, in a non-spammy way, enough emails in the meantime, I think people are way more likely to respond well to your new feature announcement. And that would bring email sequencing from red to yellow, perhaps even to something close to green.
Yeah, because I think it's important what you mentioned there, like the split between current and new. So like, how do you nurture the existing client versus, hey, we have a shiny new thing? I think what you hit there is super important. And that probably ties into, generally when you're looking at like those sequences, you're like, you have a set that are for like new users, existing users. So it's like this, like 30, 60, 90 days. Like they're probably different sequences for those, I guess, different levels of like product experience, or like you're a customer for that long. So there's different things that we need to serve them as information or emails requesting their feedback because they're at a different stage depending on how long they've worked on the product.
Yeah, that's true. You mentioned new and existing users. Is that even a problem for new users? Because they currently have nothing, they are not subscribed. So that whole problem of they do not upgrade is not really relevant for them.
Yes, exactly. But you're still back to the different tiers. I think it's important, like in any company, you have what's called the value ladder. So it's like you have your first level, whether that's package A, package B, package C, package D. And depending on their needs, they're going to choose a package that best suits them.
Yeah.
Those are the same packages that are offered to existing users and new users as well. The interesting play for new users is getting them to pick the package. Well, ideally the most expensive package, but the one that's best suited for their needs. And it's probably easier to have them not say twist their arm, but have them pick a higher tiered package off the gate versus an existing customer who's already picked a package and they're okay with the status quo.
Yeah. Yeah, true. So it's also about someone's coming in, that package B is best for them, but they pick package A, mostly because it's cheaper. Like, how can we convince them out the gate right away to go for a higher plan? And just to be a little bit annoying, and I apologize for that. Isn't that perhaps also part of the game where people don't really have a relationship with a company yet? Then they just, toe in the water. They try it out, see if there's good fit, if it's a trustworthy company. They start at A, just see if there's something there. And then if they are happy, they can move up to B or C, perhaps. And that is maybe even to be expected, that it's a bit harder to move people up.
Yeah, I think it depends how you set up those different tiers. I think generally, yes, if they want to dip their toes in the water, they want to test your product. If there's no kind of free tier, they'll go for the lowest package. But generally, you'd want to set it up. There's different ways to do it depending on like the type of product you're offering. But let's say you have a product that's targeting businesses in general. Solopreneurs require the first package, and that's fine for them. But then if they're moving up into a small and then to a medium and a large business, that's how we kind of lay out those different tiers. Generally, your package should facilitate them progressing. So like we've solved the problem with the first tier. You're a solopreneur, but now you're starting to hire. We have these other tools that'll help you at this new stage that you've kind of transitioned to.
Right.
And so on and so on. So there's different ways to kind of curate those packages, but that's one example to kind of get them up that ladder by just serving features that best suits them at the life cycle within their business maturity.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Like if I'm a designer, I'm on my own. I have, let's say, I have a Loom subscription. I also have like Clause, like a Pro subscription. It's all aimed at one person. Let's say I'm going to hire a bunch of designers and we're going to work together. I would need to upgrade to allow the extra usage. So, with that in mind, let's say I hire people, but I'm not going to upgrade. Like that's the problem, right? I need more, but I'm not going to upgrade. I will run into a usage wall at some point, I guess, because I cannot allow people to use the same account because then, for Claude, for example, it's metered. Like you have nothing after a while, like your meter is full. So that means not doing anything or upgrading. So that's a little bit of forcing someone to upgrade, but in a good way, because I think that makes sense. More people using the platform also probably means more costs for the business. So in that case, being very clear in the UI design of your product or platform is also a way to help people upgrade, not only by announcing, emojis like, hey, we have something new, but also by being very clear in your copy, being very open about your usage and limitations, and perhaps teasing a new feature in a way, like you show the button, but it's grayed out with a lock icon inside of it, and then explaining what it does. Yeah, so I think that's a strong second thing in addition to communication, showing it on the platform.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think there's many levers you can pull. I think I'd love to talk more about like the in-app stuff. So I think there's stuff in the email that's like just you're feeding them emails depending on like where they are in the life cycle. And then there's in the app. Like once they're in the app, what can we do to, number one, just educate them to use the product better, and then also educate them that there are other features that might help them.
Yeah.
In our example, if they're going from a solopreneur to a small business. How do we communicate that without being annoying? Because that can also be the case.
True. Yes. So we're already noticing, I think, in this like first 20 minutes that there are so many different factors that play a part here. It's about pricing and labeling of your tiers. What feature belongs to what tier? Like maybe that's just wrong, because I think you have two important pieces. You have the features and then you have the goals people have. And that, well, maybe it's three things. And you also have the price. So let's keep talking about like the solopreneur. They usually, in most cases, have a smaller budget than an agency. So you need to have the right features for a solopreneur at a solopreneur's budget, and then the same for agency. So maybe the examples you have in mind, maybe the features are positioned well, but maybe the pricing you connect to it is not right for the person where you think they need also those features. Like maybe it's too expensive. And that might make them consider to just do it on their own. Well, I can do this myself. I'm not going to pay $100 a month more. That might be the case.
That's true, but that might be a communication or an education problem. So like you might be going down, okay, maybe this tool is priced out for this solopreneur. The other side of that is maybe you're not communicating the value or the ROI or the return on that specific tier.
Yeah.
So
and that's true. Yeah. Go ahead.
Like, is it expensive, or is it just they don't understand the value yet?
I think it's mostly that second one where there's a lack of understanding. And I know myself, I'm a very tough person in that regard. Like I'm not someone to easily pay more for something or pay at all for something. The best example being Zapier. like I thought it was quite expensive, like something like 32 euros for me, like 30 or $40 a month. And that's more expensive than your typical subscription, which usually I feel like it's usually a bit around $20 a
Yeah.
month. So I was like, "Whoa, that's twice as much. That's expensive." And then later on, I flipped it around and was like, "Well, but it does save me about 8 hours a month times
Mm-hmm.
100 euros or $100 an hour, that I can do more each month. So then that's $800 made versus 40 spent. So that's still $760 more than if I would not give away the silly little $40, So, but it took me a very long time to switch from it costs me X amount of money to it's going to bring me X amount of hours or free time or money.
That's interesting. And how did you, like in that example, like how did you come to that realization? Was it the product that did it, or did you kind of come to your own?
This is a real example, by the way, just for our listeners, that I'm not making that up. I'm a very happy Zapier user, and it's really helping me save a lot of time. But just to answer your question, it came to me, I think, just by experience after a while and talking to people and listening. People talking about the growth mindset versus scarcity mindset. Like every job, you get better over time. And I think this was just one of the things that just occurred to me, like, wait a minute, I can save time and spend more time, working that I can, send invoices for. So no, I did not get a Zapier email where they told me, like, by the way, here's our return on investment calculator, which is probably a cool, interesting free tool any company can use for their website. Like, hey, if you use this tier, like one tier higher than you currently have, this is your investment and this is what you get in return. Like, I think that would be a good conversion tool.
I think that's a good example because there's overlap between that specific example and then the problem we're currently solving.
Yeah.
There was a clear, you purchased that $40 tool instead of like the generic, the standard 20, and you discovered value on your own. There's probably, like, to that example, maybe a calculator, like many opportunities to do the same. Like, there's a clear value in what you're offering in that specific tier. Figuring out ways to close the gap between the time of the purchase of like the first tier to, like, okay, the second tier is better. It's $40, but it saves me time. Like, how might we best like communicate that?
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true. Well, I think the calculator is one way, but then you also see that it's not fully in your control. Like, sometimes someone just has to become a bit more mature and figure it out and then connect it to their real life. Someone else that I listened to or used to listen to quite a bit, they said, well, let's just put more purchase buttons in the world and see what happens. So maybe it's also a matter of, in a polite way, not in a dark pattern way, but in a good way, showing or giving users more options to upgrade. One example that I'm currently working on is one of the big levers that we have at one of the projects is inviting your colleagues, and then if you do, you both, you and the person you invite both get a big discount, 50% off the first month or first year or whatever. That's a win-win for everyone. Because like we have confidence in our product that it's a good fit. So you have an existing user that gets a discount and you bring in a new customer that also gets a discount. Well, you give away some money, but your lifetime value probably is going to be okay for you because you have more people staying for longer and they can invite more people, etc. I first, the idealistic dreaming fancy designer that I am, I was like, well, let's just make it part of the onboarding and make it a button somewhere hidden in an overflow menu. But then the founder was like, well, no, I want it to be the invite flow. I want it to be accessible from every job that someone does on the platform. For example, hey, you've done this thing. Well done. Congratulations. Now tell your co-workers about it, because they want to do the same thing probably. And at first I was like, well, no, because that's a dark pattern and blah, 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 but then later on I realized, like, no, you're actually, by showing it more often to users, you're helping them, because, it's just easier for a whole team to be on a platform instead of you having to copy paste things out and back and forth. And you give them a discount and you give their colleagues a discount and you make more money. So it's win-win-win even. So that's the realization I had to have as a designer, to be slightly more business focused and slightly less dreamy, perhaps. So yeah, put more purchase buttons on the internet. Is what he said.
That's a good one, because that also touches the idea of like what would, because at the end of the day, there's a bunch of digital businesses on the web and a bunch of like signups, but like you don't necessarily know or trust them yet. But what builds more trust than a colleague or a friend inviting you to a platform that he currently uses and loves?
Yeah, true.
And it's
true.
Yeah, it's just the idea that you have internal advocates. If you're using the example of someone within a company using a tool, like invite your friends so they all can use it and collaborate together. And then you have that person who can kind of show them the ropes of like how to use the software.
Yeah. I think
which is another powerful thing. I think oftentimes what I see people do wrong in product is heavily leverage the help center or like the help documentation, when I don't think that anyone uses that really.
No.
I think what users are often looking for is, how do other people use the software that I use, and do it like, what are their flows look like? I see that often as feedback from like, if running user interviews, like I don't want a help center that shows me like this button does this feature does this. Like, show me, how does someone navigate through the platform, and how can I just like quickly watch a video of them doing it?
Right. So it could be a hybrid solution. It could be a help center, but at the top of the help center article, you have embedded video. Like, don't want to read?
Yes.
See how it works here. Click, and then people can watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you're saying now makes me think about the first useful chatbots that I had as a consumer while on vacation earlier this month, because chatbots have been around in customer service for years, and they were super obvious, not really useful, and a bit annoying even. And I always felt very stupid using them. It made me feel like a dumb person. So I always try to quickly get to the real person at the end. But now with AI, I had a very positive experience where I was in a vacation park, like with all these little cottages. And then you would just have questions like, what time can I check in? What do I have to do for checkout? When does the swimming pool open for the public? That kind of stuff. I would not go to the help center, like you mentioned, too much reading. But then I had in the companion app of the resort, they had a chatbot called Charlie. I don't know why, but just a random human name, I guess. Yeah. It was very useful. Like, they were very smart in just explaining it to me. Like, one sentence answers were very precise, to the point. That was super helpful. And at some point they were like, that's silly. We've told our maintenance crew, like there was a broken window in our cottage. So, and then 30 minutes later, someone was at the door like, hey, we have the window. Can we take a look? Okay. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Very useful. Translating it to your problem or your challenge. I think part of the chatbot's answers could be like, I see that you're on this plan. What you're asking for is such and such. That's part of our second tier plan. And here's how it works. Take a look, talk to a salesperson, or watch a video, anything you can do to help the person convert. Like, I feel like that could be a, less conventional way of perhaps getting a few people to upgrade, as long as you do it in a very smart and human way. Don't make people feel dumb as part of the chatbot. I think it's a possibility today with AI and all the good things that it brings.
Yeah, I think so. And I think what we haven't said yet is that there's probably one of the fears you had is like to be too salesy, but also striking the right balance. With all the different levels, we talked about emails, we talked about in-app stuff, chatbots, to not at the end of the day, like, people need to use the product. But if we're like bombarding them with like buy this, buy that, then we're turning them off. But it's about like implementing these solutions in a tactful way to not ruin the credibility of the brand.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean that's what we have with Adobe, right? Lots of people are complaining about the cancellation fee, like, and people. Adobe is just known for being, well, they have the cancellation fee, and less so about all the cool products that they have. I mean, that's potentially the result of being a bit silly around upgrading and downgrading. I am warming up now. I have, what you just mentioned about tiers and selling and not doing too much, but also not too little. I think you can also look at analytics of users. So let's say your new feature is about, again, usage, something to do with usage. If you look at like who of my people on tier A are on any given week between 80 and 100% of their usage limit. And if you send them a message or you show them a modal or a pop-up like, hey, our new feature is all about being smarter with your usage limit or even having more usage limit, I think they are far more likely to convert because they are far more likely to experience that problem that the new feature is going to fix. And then the underlying reason being that if you have 1,000 users and you have a new feature that solves a problem, it's probably more relevant for a subset of those 1,000 users, not everyone. You can then, by only sending it to the right people within those 1,000, you will save yourself an irrelevant email to some people.
Yes.
And they will get less annoyed because they haven't received the silly email. You can save that first impression of an upsell email for when they have a new feature coming up that's relevant for them.
Yeah, I think that's important because we were talking about is segmentation. So like who gets one where, because it could be, I've fallen into the trap sometimes of whether you have like an in-app like tool to like trigger pop-ups, tutorials, like onboarding flows. As you build out those different flows, it's possible to get into the trap of like, as soon as someone logs in, they get pop-ups every 3 seconds. But like, I think it's important to trigger the right pop-ups in the specific moment that they need it. Yeah. And to your point, upsell them or speak about the feature that's, or the tier that's better for them because they've hit that wall of usage.
Yeah. It's, how do they say it? Do they call it like shoot and pray? Like just send it to everyone and hope something sticks? Like, I think that's not the right approach. Like what we're just talking about. I think the more specific approach that perhaps takes a bit more effort will yield better results in the long run.
Yeah. And I think, so we talked about like those videos there. I think webinars are underutilized as well. Like on the theme of show them how people use it. Like those should be, I think, used a bit more. So you've launched a feature, for example, and you're trying to get your adoption rate up for new features launched, pairing that with a webinar of like, here's what it does. This is how we use it. And then speaking to the value and then pushing for the sale that way I think it's underutilized, but a super powerful tool as well.
Yeah, I think so. You could perhaps even turn it into an event for subscribers. Like, hey, we're going to announce and explain new features and, register and join and get a first look and blah, 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 that kind of stuff. Could be interesting. Perhaps more for B2B. I remember you saying like it's B2B. Also interesting, by the way, that B2C is what people say, at least, is by default more challenging to sell something to than B2B. It's not always the case, but that's I think the general agreement. Not useful info right now because I think we're on a good streak of figuring things out.
Yeah, I think B2C can do it well. Like Wealth Simple is a good example of like a B2C. So they're like a banking finance app. Yeah. They have been doing, I guess, Apple-like launches and webinars for their new features, which has been quite impressive. Getting people excited about the finance industries, like upgrading to a checking account. As boring as that sounds, they're making it sound like through these like webinars, like and they make it a whole event. Like, come where it's the new era of finance. Come join it, and they're getting people excited about like something that might be hard in the traditional sense to get someone to sign up or purchase.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's isn't that just super smart? Like creating the hype and making people feel energized, and it's. I think that's way better than just being like, well, yeah, low hanging fruit, quick fix, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
boring. That doesn't really convert. Another thing I think works quite well from one of the projects I did, I think earlier this year, not anymore, but earlier this year, we gave discounts to people who are very engaging with emails.
Okay.
So I mentioned in the beginning the hey, you've been with us for 2 months, what's going well email. We have the same one for people who cancel. And then with the same rules, like if they reply to me, I reply back personally. And then the question is like, what, please tell us more about why you left. Not in a judging way, like, hey, you left, we are tracking you. Tell us before you can go, but just really in an open way. We want to improve, and perhaps we can get you back. Like if they reply, we give them a welcome back discount, without pressure. Hey, if you decide to come back, don't forget to use this code, and they get 50% off in the first quarter, like first 3 months. It's not pushy. Like they just have the code, the discount code, the coupon. The same perhaps you can do for a new feature. Like if someone took the time to give feedback on like an early version of a new feature, or gave feedback or reply to anything at some point. It might be like, hey, thanks for helping us make the product better. As a thank you, here's a new feature. Try it out for free for 30 days. Let us know what you think.
Well, especially if they help you build the feature. So like you've done a good job of like sending out an email campaign saying, hey, we're thinking of building these 3 features. Would love your input. Submit this form or book a session. And if they're along the way, give them a discount and they become advocates for you.
Yes. Advocates, user champions, power users, like any cool name you can think of. I think that's a good way to really tie people to you and to your product. I think that's underutilized for new features. But then, it does depend on the type of feature. Like if you only have like a small new feature, little upgrade, that's not really something it's not big enough to do a whole user testing program, I guess. But you can also keep track of how responsive people are to your emails in general. Like if people have received over the year 10 emails and they replied to, let's say 3 of them or more, that gives them a special tag. And then you can send out the email with that special offer to people who have that tag in your newsletter tool of choice. And again, I think that's what I mentioned really in the beginning with your communication should be long term. Like you shouldn't consider it to be a quick fix. Like, well, let's just send an email once, see what happens. Probably less will happen than when you did it well.
I guess as we're talking, we mentioned email a lot.
Yeah.
I guess we're putting a lot of stock in it. I feel like I've heard people may think that email is dead. I guess we're assuming it is not.
No, I don't think so. And one of the reasons for email, I think, is that the visibility is way better. If you do if you try to go viral, like you don't know when that will happen. You can follow all the best practices, but maybe, you just don't know. And for email, it's way more predictable.
Yeah. And so I also think
that's a big benefit.
There's a strategy behind like touch points. Like I forget what like the standard now. I think it's like 7 to 11 touch points with a particular brand leads. It takes up to 7 to 11 touch points to convert for a purchase.
Yeah.
So email might facilitate that as well.
I think so. Yeah.
Sending them updates or even just seeing that you've received an email in your phone, just having that notification with that logo brand that they're on your mind.
Yes. That being said, I think there aren't many people that will just purchase a new tier based on one email where you say, we have a new feature, period. They have to be reminded of, oh yeah, I do have that challenge. What do they have to fix it? Well, they have a new feature. Oh, that's interesting. Let me think about it. Then the next day they get a case study about the new feature, and then they're more convinced. And then after they get an email or social media post, whatever, like, hey, upgrade. And then they're like, oh yes, let's try it out. And that's something I've been learning recently. Like I've been probably doing it the way that you are trying to solve now. I'm trying to be better, and touch points and warming people up to purchasing something is one of the things I've been learning recently. So yeah, very interesting.
Plus, it's also like the same for, I don't know if you've been on like the sales sides or like watch how they work. But when they're doing cold outreach, you've probably noticed it as well. If someone's trying to sell you something, they're not just sending one email. It's like 4 or 5 or 10 different emails. And the more emails you send out, the more likely someone will respond. It's like, this person's annoying. I might as well see what they're trying to sell me, versus you're saying shooting an email and hoping someone responds on the first try.
I am a bit passive aggressive that way, because depending on the level of the emails I get, because I have someone who's sending our podcast emails like every week. Like the first email was like, hey, I'm a thumbnail designer, YouTube SEO, blah, blah, blah. I can get you thousands of views. I was like, wow, this is obvious, like cold email. We're both designers. We know what we're doing. I don't need it. But I didn't reply to it. I was like, well, whatever. But now, like every 3 or 4 days or once a week, I get an email where he quotes his original email. And all he says is waiting for your response. Nothing more. And I've had probably 10 or 20 of those emails now. So it's a long list because he keeps quoting the one before. So the email I have now, it's just a big wall of text that every line is waiting for your response. And then the passive aggressive part for me is like, well, just send your emails. Like, I'm not going to reply back. Just, waste your time and energy and email server cost. Like, to just run out. Like, I don't care. And now it ends up in spam anyway. But that's me just being a big, mean Dutch person, I guess. Yeah.
Though there is something that, there's just something that he's communicating.
So go ahead. Yeah. That's true.
Like, if he's working this hard to get your business, how hard will he work when he gets your business? Which is also another layer to it.
Well, that's true. But I feel like it's all automated because it's literally the same reply. And he sent the same message to another of my email addresses as well.
So, okay, well, there you go.
But so I'm not convinced. What triggered me, what you said earlier about more emails means more likely to sell, is I didn't believe that at first, but I'm warming up to the idea that it might be true because, me as a business owner, I'm trying to learn more about sales. When I have a lead, and this applies, I think, to new features as well. Someone sent me an email like, hey, Nick, I am looking for someone to help me with my platform design. Like, can you help me? Then I reply back, yes, sure. Here's my calendar booking link, schedule something. And then they do. And then I reply back, cool, looking forward to it. And then silence. And then I have the meeting. And then, the lead converts or they don't. That's very simple. But all these sales gurus, they tell me like, well, in that 2 or 3 days between the meeting and the booking of the meeting,
yes,
you should send them all sorts of emails like, hey, here's a case study. Here's this, and here's how it works. And here are some, FAQs, that kind of stuff. To me, that feels very spammy. Like, I feel like something's being sold to me. But when all these gurus are saying that it works, and me being super stubborn says it does not work, it's probably a me problem. It's very likely that I'm the ones I'm wrong here, probably. But I have to warm up to the idea that it's okay to be salesy. Like, that's my bias. I have to be more salesy rather than just trying to be friendly, And that applies here too with new features.
Yeah. Because I think the logic behind that one is, so you've booked a call. There's 2 benefits. Number one is you're not going to forget that you have a meeting booked. So it's like, please don't forget, which is number one. Like, I'm sending you an email just to keep you, again, on my mind. And then number 2, the goal is to pepper in sales objections. So typical. Yeah. So they've run these sales sessions, they've gone on calls, and there's patterns in which like, oh, I don't want a thing. And there's like A reason, B reason, and C reason. If you pepper in the answers to those questions leading up to the sales conversation, you're primed and ready to be sold. That's what I've been told.
That's true. I was very close to purchasing a very expensive, business related thing from the person with a very great sales sequence. But then I felt like the actual meeting was way different. I think he was too casual. He was too laid back. I'm like, yeah. So I think you're right. Like I was very primed and very convinced, and then I expected perhaps too much during the meeting. But I'm applying it now for my work. For example, someone's actually looking for design help, and I sent a message like, hey, I can help. And then they replied to me. They told me, we have a ton of replies, too many to count, but please tell me a bit more about yourself. So instead of writing a big wall of text, I made a Loom recording and sent it over to them, introducing myself, being very friendly and open, and then all that kind of stuff, and showing a little bit of work already. And now I'm one of the final 3, for the project, and I have a meeting with them tomorrow. So it will, before this is going to be released, long behind us. But tomorrow is that meeting, and before the meeting, I made a FigJam board with a source of relevant projects that I think is relevant for them, testimonials, and another Loom recording where I talk them through everything, and so they have seen it before the meeting, because we have 30 minutes, and then they've had, you're basically cheating time, because otherwise you would spend 20 minutes showing them all the work, and then there's no time for questions and talking. So that's what I'm taking away from the whole, sales experts telling me about sequencing. And I feel that's you can apply all of that to features as well. So again, tease that you're working on something. If someone mentions, hey, I have this problem, reply to them like, that's interesting. It's on our roadmap.
Yeah.
Have a roadmap on the website. That's also a thing.
First principles.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm rambling a little bit here, but I think just being salesy, as a freelance designer, as myself, but also features for your projects, they have overlapping things that work and don't work. Yeah. You need to make a large run up before you jump.
Yeah, I think the theme that I'm seeing in this discussion is don't be afraid to sell.
Yeah.
Ultimately, if you're not going to sell your product or features, no one else will. No one's going to trip over a banana or slip on banana and then put their credit card in and buy your product. You have to do a bit of.
You mean that they slip over a banana peel and then they fall like credit card first into a payment terminal?
Exactly.
I mean, that's what people, how I started. Like, well, let's just write articles to SEO and then people will come to me, Well, but that's not the only thing. So yeah, just perhaps to summarize, I think communication is important, and having more purchase buttons, not being afraid to do sales, what you said, is important. And then overall, perhaps I think the scorecard system and combining it with data is very interesting. Like, it's more like a framework. Figure out the baseline, rate the current systems in place, if any, and then see if you can tackle the lowest scores to be an average score, compare the data again, see if you're on the right track, and then do a few iterations, and the results will be, I think, very promising.
Yeah, I think that's a solid strategy. And it's not a shoot and spray, as you were mentioning. Very methodical, analytics-based.
Yeah.
Measure, iterate, continue.
Yeah. Well,
totally aligned.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. I think this also motivates me to have like 2 extra topics for the show. Is that framework, I think, is very interesting to talk more about. Like how can you, because it helps your conversations with stakeholders, like how to convince them to spend time and energy and budget on certain design work over something else. But also the second thing that I now lost my train of thought, but I'll get to it. Like, the scorecard stuff, I think, is a very good thing to talk about. I think many designers will feel very much helped by it.
Yeah, I think it's maybe we can even build some kind of lead magnet there. We'll give away the toolkit and subscribe to our email.
Yeah, that's true. You could be our 6th email subscriber.
We're moving up. We're becoming super famous. I like it.
True. Yeah. Well, I hope this brainstorm was helpful for you, because I assume this is all based on a feeling you have from your work.
Exactly. And I think it's a good
Yeah.
opportunity to segue into our next episode. But before that, I have a YouTube retention play here. I'd like to mention that if you're watching on YouTube, behind me, you'll notice that there is a picture frame that has slowly been falling off falling off the wall and is yet to fall off. But we've made it through the entire episode. If you'd like to rewind and watch that thing slowly fall off the wall, please do so now.
I have to admit, I didn't notice, but what I will do is, once you've edited this episode, I will probably make a time lapse out of it.
Please do.
See it fall in like 5 seconds. That's going to be really funny. But that's a shame for people, listening only because they cannot see. But it does make me think, a silly creative person that I am, that on our new website, where we have the frames, I will probably animate one of the frames to really slowly fall down.
Oh, please do that. Please do that.
Yes.
That's my wish.
I will make note of it, and then once it's completely down, like behind the frame, there will be like a little sticky note where people can click to watch this episode, and then they will know why the frame is falling. I think that's
it's a nice Easter
eggs. I think Easter eggs could be another topic. Like, why not leave the middle of the road that AI is pushing us towards, and why not do something silly on your website or on your product? Because people will talk about it. More on that later.
But I think to tease next episode, I think we're going to go,
of course,
go over, I think we're going to call it the product design portfolio mastermind, get into the tactics needed to polish up or strategize around building a solid converting portfolio.
Yeah. And the things we're going to talk about will be tough and honest and different compared to all the other generic advice you will see around portfolio optimization. So if you're in this position of, well, I've applied 100 times, no responses, I get ghosted, don't know what to do with my case studies, all these very relatable, annoying problems that many designers are currently struggling with, this episode will be, and forgive me for saying it, but it will be a game changer for you.
Love it. I'm going to leave it there.
I don't like the word game changer, but now I had to use it. So there we go.
Perfect. It follows your sales training.
Yes.
Sell it up.
Right. I'm rising from the ashes. I'm becoming a salesy person in a good way, I hope.
All right. Till the next episode.
Till the next episode. See you then.
That was a great episode. So if you like this content and want to hear more, please like and subscribe.
Yeah. And if you want to see more, please go to designtablepodcast.com, Spotify, Apple Music, all the big players and more.